I'm Julie Fernandez, and I'd like to welcome you to this Peterborough Presents podcast, where we're going to be talking with and about everyday creatives. I suspect that most people listening have a creative spark inside of themselves somewhere. Creativity can show itself in many different ways, from the subtle to the flamboyant. No matter who you are, your own unique form of creativity is there inside of you, even if it's yet to be discovered. In each episode, I'll be chatting with a variety of local creatives, ranging from poets, crafters, dancers, singers, writers, and more, to explore what creativity means to them and how it impacts their lives. If you're a secret creative or a blooming and budding artist, this podcast is for you. I want to thank you guys for being here today to talk about creativity. So we're going to have an interesting conversation. I'm going to ask some questions, but please don't hesitate to ask each other questions. But I'm going to open it. I want to ask each one of you. So I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Your name?
Yeah.
How are you creative? And how are you not creative?
Okay. So my name's Shaun Patterson. I'm creative in music. I'd probably say that's my first love when it comes to being creative, having a creative outlet, but writing, full stop. Stories, that's always a kind of a thing for me, like writing any kind of format, whether it's poetry right through to stories formally. And then painting, very interested in painting. I used to collect Warhammer figures, the little ones. If you've ever walked by Games Workshop, I spent hours in there. And then when COVID hit, I was trying to keep myself out of trouble. I was like, right, I'm going to buy myself another set. I'm going to lock myself in the house. So like maybe a couple of years ago, I bought another set, started putting them together again, watching tutorials, finding out how to spread paint. So they're my, I suppose, main creative outlets. And my children, you know, playing with them, drawing, that's something they're engaged in. So a lot of activity around that. But not creative.
Now tell me the truth. What did you say to me earlier?
I said I'm finding it difficult to think of an area I'm not creative in, which may come across as like, oh, really? No, but I enjoy cooking. Anything that I would say is a creative form of outlet. I enjoy landscaping. I spend time in the garden, all these kind of different things. So I suppose I'm gonna steal an answer that I kind of heard earlier, right? But I will change it. I will change it slightly. Formal dancing, because that's I never did any kind of formal dancing whatsoever.
So not waltzing, no polka dot.
No, strictly. My sisters both did ballet when they were younger.
Okay.
But I never got into any kind of formal.
The minute it's choreography, it's different, isn't it? Because I feel like I can dance if they put music on. But the minute I've done a little bit of tap, I've done a little bit of salsa, the minute it's formalised, I can't do it. I'm rubbish. I'm actually, you know.
Here's a 10 from Len.
Yeah. That's on the bucket list, though. I wanted to learn the tango. I wanted to learn like quite a
brilliant,
passionate, intimate dance. I was like, the tango or flamenco, something like that at some point. So
I'm going to come to you now. Right.
Must you?
Yes, I must. Name what you're creative with and what you're not creative with.
Okay. So my name's Daljit Singh. Most people know me as Del Singh. In terms of my creativity, I didn't consider myself a creative until maybe just a couple of years ago, when I realised that I can tell a story. I can articulate, and I do actually have a lot of stories to tell. And so I guess that was probably that sort of key moment for me, working with Peterborough Presents, to actually come up with stories based around my own life and around Peterborough, place I grew up in. So storytelling's been an important part for me, and that's led into my kind of becoming a filmmaker, making short films, articulated stories on film. That's then led on to actually trying to write something that's now going to be turned into a theatre piece, which is quite remarkable. And during COVID, as you said, it was a time when a lot of us had a time on our hands to look at things. I started writing, not something that I thought I would do, and I thought I'd write stories around my family, particularly my late father. And I thought I'd write about 30 pages, ended up writing about 300 pages, which almost forms a novel, but I haven't been brave enough to actually show anybody yet. But so yeah, that's my creative part. In terms of not creative, it's definitely, I can't hold a note. So singing is definitely not creative for me. I think I'm one of the few people that was ushered out of a karaoke bar in Tokyo for actually ruining their national sport of singing karaoke style, because it was that bad. So I can't do that. So that's my
I'm with you. I really cannot sing. My agent will often kind of go, I'm like, no, don't send me on anything where I've got to sing. Moony, tell me. Oh, I've given the game away now.
Oh, well, you say that. I've got also known as. So my real name is Munir Hassan. People know me as Moony or Moony Opaque. It's my sort of stage name, nickname.
Stage name?
Yeah. Do you know, I wanted to keep a bit of a line between, you know, both my professional and personal life and my kind of creative life. It was quite nice, you know, that people could Google one person or the other.
Okay.
I thought I was going to be able to keep that like secret, but it's such rubbish. Google. It's now they're the same thing actually. So, what am I creative at? So I mean, I'm a singer, songwriter, music producer. Also, I've put on various festivals, events, stages. I helped run the Glass Onion Music and Arts Community Centre. So I really enjoy facilitating art for other people. I'm very big on, you know, people getting out there and doing things, that sort of self-empowerment thing creatively. I think it's really important, really, really helpful. I'm terrible at, you know, as we mentioned, I can't do any sort of choreography dance. The tap dance thing was, do you know, when I was 9, and it kind of leads into what we're talking, when I was 9, culturally, I went and said to my dad, like, you know, I want to learn tap dance. And at this age, and being from, you know, sort of Asian, Pakistani background, they were just like, that's not really a thing for boys of our culture. And I remember I went upstairs to my bedroom, I had a little cry, and I said to myself, you know, one day I'm going to do this, I'll do this myself. And when I hit, I think 35, was something of that nature, I decided to go and join a tap dancing class. It was just me and you know, like a 9-year-old girl, 11-year-old girl, and I was just trying to get myself to grade 1 tap, because that was my plan. I thought if I just get to, I knew I was terrible at it. I was bad at it. You know, it took me ages, and then it was nice because they had to learn these dance routines in literally 20 minutes. It would just take me 3-4 weeks.
Did you do it in front of your dad in the end, though?
No, I did. He's never seen me tap dance. I haven't really tap danced in public in front of anybody actually, but I can now tap dance, so that's good. But I can't draw, and my handwriting's terrible. But I would give anything a go. I'm not afraid of being bad at stuff. You know, I often say to people with the music and the singing and everything, you know, just because you're not David Beckham doesn't mean you're not allowed to play football. You know, I should probably say Messi now, because, you know, to be...
We are probably going to want you to tap dance on here before we finish.
Yeah, and
now.
I would probably do it. I would probably do it.
Down.
You know, my the biggest thing that got me on stage and got me creative was finding that part of my brain where embarrassment was, and learning to just turn the volume down on it. And I would purposely put myself in embarrassing situations so that I got used to being embarrassed, so that suddenly embarrassment became, in fact, something I thrived on even. You know, my wife, my kids will tell you this, that I do these embarrassing things in public because, do you know, the cringeworthy, and a lot of comedy we watch nowadays, you know, whether it's Ricky Gervais or, you know, that kind of cringe-worthy, embarrassing comedy. Oh, I love the shame.
But I do that just to embarrass them.
Yeah,
that's why
absolutely,
I do it. If I were to do it, I do it to that's why it is.
Because if you're not embarrassed, then actually it isn't. You know, it's such a personal experience.
I want to talk about creativity, and I want to hear from each of you how you got into creativity and how your creativity works for you. Can you talk to me about? So you're a musician. And you're a wordsmith.
Yeah, that's...
Sorry, what sort of genre do you do?
Most people say hip-hop.
Yeah.
But I started with maybe like grime.
And you're producing your beats as well, and
some producing. I work with another producer, collaborative team that I work with, based in Leicester actually. That's where they basically tend to record once every couple of weeks. We'll go over there.
Cool.
And for all of us, I'm a firm believer that every human being needs a creative outlet, whether it's public forum or not. I think it is good. Yeah. More recently, I think I've come to the conclusion that you should try and platform whatever your creative outlet is, because it pushes you to do a bit better and maybe challenge yourself and say, I've reached this. But if it's not, again, I feel being creative in a kitchen is a creative outlet. If you don't cook, if you did nothing creative, i.e. you never cooked, you never changed your environment with your hands, you never physically did anything, that you take an idea from your brain and you create something. That's what painting is. That's what making music is. You're taking an idea that's in your head and you're changing your world. If as a human you don't have the capability to do that, I feel like you can slump into depression, because you're not expressing yourself.
So do you think it's almost a form of therapy, and you can like expect for as a musician, the words, you can get your frustrations out in the dialogue of the words and the tone and the meaning of it.
And I
I think in the process, I used to say that it feels like a musical like an emotional shower. You know, I could go into the studio or into band practice in a certain mood, have an argument with your partner or whatever it is, depressed. When I came out at the other side, I'll be feeling a completely different vibe, and then going home back in, and they'd still be in a mood, and I'll be like, "Hey, how we doing?"
Good,
What's your problem? I feel fine, mate.
And I think seeing it as that, like, I've got techniques that I've kind of heard other artists speak about along the way of going, okay, before you record, don't eat anything. So you're literally going in hungry. You've got kind of almost, and I've thrown caution to the wind and eaten before I've gone in and been sluggish and had a different level of energy, and the recording comes out completely different from if you were to go in maybe on an empty stomach, you're passionate, you're like, okay, the only thing I care about is getting this as the best version I can put out before.
Okay.
But it is. I mean, Julie, I kind of agree. I think it is for your own mental health and well-being, because I see so many people. I mean, I work in the IT industry. People are really serious, and I live for my work. And I see a lot of those people live for their work, and they're the most boring people in the world. They really are. And, even when on a social platform, they will you go out for a night and they'll be talking about work, and you're like, oh, for God's sake. And you want to switch off. And for me, that's where the creativity comes in. Talk about something other than what you do at work. Talk about something, it doesn't matter, whatever it is. And I enjoy doing that. So I find it's that outlet, it's that release valve, you said, mechanism, when you're kind of really stressed. I mean, for me, so I do a bit of running, so I've gone from marathons to now I don't run quite as far, but when I do go on my runs, I find it's a brilliant way of actually garnering on my thoughts and thinking about things, and that's where stories come from to me. I wonder how should I tell this story, what are this, and come up with characters and so on, and the things drop into your mind of little instances. They're little vignettes of life that you think, oh my God, that's actually was quite funny. I'm going to make a note of that and tell that, and other people will find it funny, hopefully. And so yeah, for me, I think it is important to do that, because that's a massive de-stressor.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you find the same?
Yeah, I mean, my story for how I became creative is quite interesting. Was I joined. I've got two stories very quickly, but they're both quite funny. The first was I would love singing, but it wasn't a thing we did. When I got to secondary school, I joined the boys' choir, but when I was in the choir, my voice was breaking, and I couldn't sing. I genuinely couldn't sing. I know that because I've got a really good ear. So instead of singing, I mimed. And this was Jack Hunt School. I was in the choir for a year and a half, so first year seniors, second year seniors, and I mimed for the entire 18 months. And we won we came runner-up East Anglia's Schoolboy Choir of the Year. From that, we got commissioned to sing on a TV programme, Porterhouse Blues, with David Jason in it. It was back in the early 90s.
It was,
yeah. So we're talking, I don't know, 88, 87, whatever it was. Anyway, so we got coached to the film studio. We got there, they did sound check, they mic'd us all up. And that's when I suddenly realised that I've been miming for a year and a half. I've never even sung in front of you guys ever. And I was right on the run. I'm really good at the mime. So I thought, why was I miming? Because I knew I couldn't sing. Okay. I knew I didn't have the tone. But I've liked being part of this thing, and I like just
imposter
being,
syndrome.
I just wanted to be there.
Opposite
So
of
it was the reverse.
That's the complete opposite.
Yeah, it was the reverse.
So much belief that I'm going to mime my way
I'm going to mime
TV
because I enjoy it.
It's in part of the choir.
And I used to get afternoons off to go singing around the country, and I just thought this is a good thing to do. My mate was in it. My mate was in it. I was like, yeah, love singing, but I knew I couldn't sing, and my ear was always good. I've always had good musical ear. Even to this day, I have no musical training. I do everything.
So did you get found out at the Porterhouse Blues thing?
Do you know, within 10 seconds of singing, the music teacher went, "Who's that?" and stopped, and then walked round, and then when she got to me, I said it was me, and she made me go and sit on the bus. Right? Now, as an adult, right, she made me, I'd run my family in Pakistan, all my aunts and uncles, all my friends, I'm going to be on TV, I'm on TV, David Jason. And then, obviously, I had to come back, and now I got kicked out of choir, because I sang, actually. So I then didn't sing publicly until I was 27. Right, and didn't ever, and it really kind of affected me, actually. The way I got to play guitar, because also as a family, it wasn't really considered. a thing we did. So the way I got to play guitar.
Do you mean music?
Yeah, music. In my family, it wasn't something that you did. Particularly, I'm from a Muslim family, and it was never something that it was taken that it would be serious or encouraged. I was more encouraged to do my studies and to become an engineer and to become something, what they would consider sort of more worthwhile. Okay. And creativity was really.
But they enjoyed music as a family, did they? In
Not
other areas?
particularly. No, we did it individually, but it wasn't.
Not the sort of music you probably wanted to do.
No, and I guess we were more encouraged to pray and to to do other things that weren't creative or musical in that sense. I mean, I used to practice my guitar in the garage to keep it away from my family because I'd get told to keep that down, please. But so anyway, this is the last story. I hope I'm not taking up too much time. So now when I was about 16, 17, I was walking to town with some friends. Now I'm about 17. We were going to go to a gig, and I saw a kitchen window open. I said to my friends, "Watch this." And I went up to the window, and the whole plan was, it was around tea time, the plan was for me to go boo through the window and make everybody jump and then run away. When I look through the window, right, there's nobody in the kitchen, and there's a kitchen sink and there's no one there. Then from nowhere, and I can't explain how straight this man appears from the floor, like the Beelzebub, just appears in front of me. So I scream at him, he screams at me. He was mending the sink. That's how come. So that's why he just went from in front of me and appeared, right? So then we ran 100 metres up the road. He rung us into the police, said I had a knife and was trying to burgle his house. Now, I wasn't any kind of a criminal at all. And then the last thing the policeman said to me is, "You're just an idiot, aren't you?" I was like, yeah, fair.
Fair enough.
So anyway, so my dad said to me, "Right, you're either, you can either go live with your friends and be a criminal. You're obviously not very good at it. Or you're grounded for the rest of the year." So this would have been my whole final year A levels. So I was 17. That's it. I'm 17. So we're doing the whole final year A levels. So, and I was like, "Well, Dad, I'm not moving out because, no thanks. I'm happy living at home." It was a joke. So I got grounded. I wasn't allowed out. So my friend gave me an acoustic guitar and said, "Well, if you're in for the year, you may as well learn this." And so and I'm going to finish on that. It's just strange how in life. So the reason I became a musician was because I got arrested and got grounded.
Yeah, so
I spent that year just all year long just learning to play guitar, and we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have anything like that. So often I'd just put my hands in weird places and then listen to the sounds and just learn the sounds.
So
and
it's
I didn't
the
even
10,000 hour thing,
Yeah,
isn't
that's
it?
exactly what it was. So I still to this day don't know the chords or the scales or any music theory. I just do everything right ear.
I mean, just talking about sort of getting. I mean, I consider myself to be a recent creative, but if I go back far enough, just as you said, there was a moment there that changed your life. I mean, for me, the moment that actually changed my life and actually got things going was Saturday Night Fever. Okay. Now, I told you, and I'll tell you why, because I was at school, I was at Jack Hunt School, like yourself. Yeah. I was in amongst the first sixth form. My oldest brother...
So what year were you there?
I was there between 1973 and 1980. So, so my brother was in the first sixth form, I was in the second sixth form, and what we were doing around then, this was around 78, 79, Saturday Night Fever was just breaking, kind of the world was going kind of a bit mad with all of that stuff with the white suit. And... we were finding ways of raising money for charity, and we'd done the sponsored cycling, sponsored football, whatever. And some bright spark came with this idea: let's do a sponsored disco. Let's do a 24-hour disco. Oh my God, 24 hours away from home. The disco, great. And the school allowed us to use the black box, the drama theatre.
Yep.
We'd phoned local DJs here, and they said, "Yeah, we can do 100 quid or something like that, 4 hours." No, we're 24 hours. No, we don't do 24 hours. And we're going to charge you $2,000. It's like, oh, okay. So my brother and I ended up hiring kit from a shop called the Music House on Lincoln Road, and then getting people to bring records in. I ended taping the chart show on Sundays, like classic. We used to do. And we did this disco. My brother and I were the DJs on this thing. And it was immense. It was brilliant, to the point where we raised $3,000 for charity. Mm-hmm. But what happened was, a knock-on effect was that after that, people kept coming up to us saying, "I've got a birthday party. I don't suppose you want to do the disco." And we went back to Music House, got this kit off them on we'll pay you on the weekly.
Yep.
And we built up a disco kind of roadshow as a result and became DJs. And it was basically, kind of frustrated musicians, couldn't play an instrument, but can play tunes, but also have this repartee with the audience. For me, it was difficult because you're kind of 16, your kind of balls haven't dropped, so you're on a microphone going, "Oh, good evening, But at the same time, you've got to entertain people, and once you're doing that, it's building confidence. You've got control.
So is that the spark then for you that in essence you could also relate the part running the park as a venue?
It was all
from that moment.
Well, it was the love of music, because I loved music. I mean, for me, there was the sacred day. I mean, as a Sikh, the sacred day should have been Sunday, going to the Gurdwara, the temple. For me, it was Thursday night, top of the pops, top of the bloody pops. Yeah, my dad used to come from London on a Thursday, and I used to pray, please God, let him come at 8 o'clock so I can watch Top of the Pops, and he'd turn up at 7 o'clock. He's like, oh no, and we'd have to sort of empty the van out and so on. But I loved watching that, and then we'd go to school the next day and talk about who we'd seen and what it was, and that's where the music, the joy came from, and then the ability to actually play that music to other people and entertain them. And it put me and my brother both through university. It allowed us to do stuff. And in fact, it's almost the pivot of one of the things that I'm working on at the moment as a creative project, which is a story of 3 Sikh lads running a heavy metal roadshow in Peterborough, nowhere in the universe but Peterborough. Something that's actually another creative angle.
Can I speak to you, Shaun, about the organisation that you work with, Culture Community?
Yeah, Culture Community.
Tell me about that, and how do you get creativity involved in that with the kids and stuff?
That's a huge part of what we do. So yeah, Culture Community is a Peterborough-based Saturday school. It runs during term time every other Saturday. It's based over at the Honey Hill Family Centre. And we support children between the ages of 8 all the way up until 16. There is a little bit of fluidity with that. Like my youngest is 7 and my eldest is 9. So when I first started taking them, they were a little bit under the threshold. But it's run by Precious Graham. She's the one that set it up. She's a qualified teacher, but set up the organisation a couple of years ago, and it's gone from strength to strength to the point where we've been nominated for an award now. BBC Cambridgeshire Award. We're through to the finals at the minute. The ceremony takes place in September.
Okay.
We just had BBC with us last Monday, the Monday before.
Do we have to
the one
vote?
just gone.
Can you say a link or
I don't think we can vote at this point. This is down because we got voted into it to begin with, and then we've been selected as it's gone through. But they came and filmed with us, the Monday before last, so that went really well. So yeah, now we've got the awards in September to see that we've won it. I'm willing that we've won it. I'm pretty sure
being a finalist is great, isn't it? Like
it definitely is.
Some pride,
I'm looking forward to it. And I used to be part of a Saturday school in Peterborough when I was a kid. It used to be run called Kumba, which was a Saturday school for the same kind of purpose, catering to the Afro-Caribbean community now. From when I was a kid up until this age, the demographic of Peterborough has changed so much. Now we've got different communities. The Portuguese community is growing quite a lot. The African Caribbean community is growing quite a lot as well. So yeah, even the demographic of the children that we're supporting now is completely different. But it does involve creativity, arts and crafts. There's been some amazing work there. Actually, looking back, I've seen some of the girls being really creative with the boxes and drawing pictures onto them, to the point where I've said I would legitimately buy this stuff myself.
It's
So
actually good.
Exactly. Exactly.
Good.
It's always good.
Absolutely.
But to the point where actually I'm gonna. That's the threshold, isn't it? I would part with my money for this. Like I would. That's how much I want it. I want it for my own almost. I guess that's the point where art becomes commodity, right? Is like, okay, no, I need to own this. That's the interesting thing about art and creativity to me, is when it does go over that. But it's been a really good creative outlet for all of the children involved, and I just hope it continues to expand the way that we're hoping it does, and grow into a full-fledged school essentially at a certain point. So we'll see.
What would you guys say to someone who says, I'm not creative? I don't understand creative.
Dying inside. No,
I'd say you probably haven't found.
Exactly, you haven't found it, but
your comfortable
you're leaving
space.
a lot on the table. If you don't have any creative outlet, then there's a good chance that you're not necessarily feeling fulfilled.
I think and I've had this conversation with a few people actually about, I said it earlier about turning that voice down. That's the first things first, is we've all got it. We've all got that inner critic that's going on in our heads. So some people it's louder, some of us have more confidence to break through. And often some people, I've had people who say, I love singing, but I've never sung in public. I have people saying exactly that. I know I'm not creative. I'd say, one, try things. Also, don't worry about whether or not you're good at it or not. I think that's the other thing, is people are expecting to do something and be immediately good at it. I'm at the moment I'm taking up the trumpet, And it's awful. And for my family and neighbours, I do feel for you. It's not going to stop me, but I do genuinely feel for you because it's awful because I'm just playing the same 5 notes over and over again badly. So I would always say the first thing to do is manage your inner critic and find something that you enjoy. Once you enjoy it, the repetitive nature of stuff, you will become better at it, and you'll find you never know where you in life where you bounce off that into something. You know what I mean? I thought I was going to be a singer and I turned into a producer, or I thought I was going to be, you know what I mean? I thought this was the direction I was going to be, but actually, as it happened, then I met somebody who taught, so that's what I would say.
But the other thing I think is definition, because I think people have a very narrow definition of creativity. I mean, first and foremost, and it's the word that art. People say I'm not arty. Yeah. And I've always tried to do this whenever I know I've been in a lot of meetings where we've been. I've always said, look, can we just get rid of that word? Because that word, as soon as you say the art or the arts, people immediately think of, somebody called Darcy or Matilda or somebody, it's like very posh and ballet and privileged. It's not, and that's why I said replacing the word art with creativity means it opens up the definition to more than just painting and dancing and whatever, to things like musicians, rapping, grime, storytelling, crocheting, face painting, lots and lots of different things fall under that umbrella. And so what I would sort of say, first of all, is start to actually understand, what that means to you personally in terms of creativity, because we've all got it, as you say, being in the kitchen, being able to prepare something from scratch. I've created this. Wow. It was a set of raw ingredients, but I've made it into something beautiful.
And then you feed it to your family and they really enjoy it. There's something amazing.
Yeah, I think cooking's a big one. A lot of people say I'm not creative, but then they would love cooking. Like recognising that as a creative outlet may make you think, oh, actually, I'm going to try a complete different recipe. I'm going to try and work on my presentation. Oh, actually, if I see it as something creative, I might push myself and enjoy it a bit more as well.
Do you think creativity can help change lives?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Massively.
Yeah?
Massively. I mean, I would say the reason I've never had to take any, depressive medication or that side I would put down to music and
not even recreationally.
So, and I would also say that I never got in trouble with the police again. Before that, because actually all I mentioned was me, attempted burglary. That was actually my 3rd arrest. Okay. So it was that made my dad. I didn't mention that earlier because I wanted to appear better than I am. But
you already had 3 strikes.
Yeah, that's 3 strikes. Done. So my dad had given through.
He's giving you a chance. To be fair, I thought he was a bad guy.
No, exactly. And that's how I started with a sentence where he said, "You're obviously not a very good criminal because you keep getting caught." So and so if this is the path you want to go down, but. I know I wasn't, I wasn't actually a criminal. The truth was, I was silly. All of my arrests were related to practical jokes and laughing too much and doing something, stupid. That when you look back after you've stopped laughing, you think, well, that was ridiculous. But what I would say is, by whether it be sports and whether we create sports within creativity. If you can give people interest and ways to channel their energy, especially during those teenage years, right? If you're not into music, arts, creativity, whether it be drama, sports, then often you end up, there isn't places for teenagers to go. We have, in this Western society, we have adults, you can socialise here. Children, you can socialise with your parents here. And then I remember hitting an age where we just hang around on the streets. And actually the choices are recreational drugs or hanging around the streets and starting to, vandalise or whatever. And immediately, the minute I got into music, and I saw that from my friends that were into sports or were at, whether it be, any creative things, they weren't hanging on the streets with us. No. They weren't making that trouble. And once I got my music, I then got musical friends, and I stopped hanging around on the streets, like just standing in Bretton Centre for 5 hours. And then somebody just ends up breaking a window.
Yeah, but that all of that energy stuff that you're talking about is yes. that chaotic energy, that chaos, that okay, I want to do something to embarrass someone a little bit. I've still got that in me. When you were saying that earlier, I was thinking the other day I was on the way back from a festival on the train, me and my partner, and I heard someone talking. I was like, I'm going to say something. She was like, please don't say anything. I'm like, I've got it in me. It's bubbling. I might have to say something. Luckily enough, I controlled myself. Yeah. But I think it's the same place. Like, okay, if I don't have a way to channel this energy to express myself, they're expressing.
I'm going to go and rob a Greggs
That's
or
the way
something.
they're expressing themselves. It's on the negative. It's the negative end of the spectrum, but that's the way they're choosing. Maybe if they felt like I could write a song that's going to create more of an impact. Now, arguably, like, if these people are smashing up Greg's, then maybe we need to just work with them a little bit. But like,
half of it was entertainment.
it's another outlet. It's another form of outlet.
Yeah, you're right. It is
But creative or destructive.
Yeah.
It's opposite ends of the pendulum. So people are
Yeah.
happy destroying something sometimes just as much as they're happy to create.
But
Yeah, well, they think they're creating something out of chaos. That's what it is, isn't it? It's I'm making a bold statement here, whereas they could do something really positive. But to your point there about, does creativity actually help people and change lives? Of course it does. It changes the life of the person that's actually the creator. And it also changes the lives of the people that are actually listening and watching and taking something away from it, because it, a little bit of that rubs off on people and they'll come back. And I'm sure, you guys experience it, and you yourself as a creative experiences where people come back to you and say, I really like that thing you did there and so on. And I went back and told so-and-so. And somebody said that to me recently. And so said to me, I saw the way you were talking about Peterborough quite passionately. And my daughter saw that and she was like, I have those same feelings. And I was like, articulate them. But she's not great at talking to a camera, but she's good at writing. I said, well, articulate it in writing, a poem or something. And he was like, she's actually really good at poetry. I said, well, get her to theme something around Peterborough as poetry and stuff, and that would be great. And again, I sort of recommended People Present to the people. I said, there's loads of organisations out there, Cultural Alliance and so on, where if you create this sort of stuff, there's people like Malika who speaks, who again takes personal experience and poetry and so on. And so you're right, it does change lives, but you've got to kind of let it.
So you guys are all Peterborians. I'm from London. I only moved up 15, 20 years ago. What's the creative scene like in Peterborough? What was it like? Has it improved? Has it got better? Has it got worse? What's it, like, is it good? We're talking good.
Peterborough is, for me, especially when it comes to music and rappers, I genuinely feel like some of the people from Peterborough are some of the most talented.
Yeah.
In terms of the actual, or as talented as some of the people I've seen on a worldwide platform, genuinely. And when I've had one-to-one interactions with them, like, let me show you this. But it's going from that, doing it within my own space, to actually I'm going to platform it, and I'm going to platform it in a way that's going to have enough reach where people can actually hear it. But yeah, that's a kind of an ongoing burning mission of mine, really, is to go back and say, like, look at this person dropped a project back in 2010, which is still holds up today, and it's really good. Go back and check it out. Go and download it. That might inspire that person to actually, I'm going to record something else again, because a lot of times people do, they record stuff and then they never.
What about live scene for you in Peterborough? How is that?
The live scene side for me,
it's a bit dead, isn't it?
And we're sat like right now in ARU. I think really what Peterborough needs is a nightlife, because if we're going to keep the students that are coming here and really enjoying it, if we're going to keep them involved and wanting to be here, you have to create a local scene. When I was growing up, we had, I'm sure we had Park, we had Dissident, we had Liquid, Envy. All of these spots are shut. There's only kind of one spot I know that's open in terms of live music now.
Still got the Met Lounge. We've still got the Met Lounge.
Yeah, Met Lounge.
As the person that actually owned the park and bought some of that scene, and again, a passion of Peterborough and music and live music and breaking new bands and different genres of stuff.
Thank you. Thank you,
That's
by
a
the way.
I'll say that. I played there. I'll say that as well,
I remember seeing Lethal Being.
I supported Kasabian there.
Yeah, so
it's a big moment for us.
Professor Green, when he was on there, he did rap battles there.
Yeah.
Exodus Payne jumped on. So I've got some really cool.
you guys are making me blush now. You're making me blush. Cisco, yeah, I know.
I never thought I'd see Cisco and Peterborough performing the thong song.
Well, I mean,
in Park. That was a moment.
For me, Coolio actually sort of
I didn't make that one.
Bringing Coolio here was quite something. But look, it was. But the sad thing is that much as we, as an independent, we tried and we did all of that. And I think, unfortunately, we've had kind of this whole sea change, which is why you've got one club really left, which is the Met Lounge as such. Yeah. All the mainstream clubs are gone, and it's not just a Peterborough symptom. It's actually all across the UK. You went from like 3,000 clubs down to about 900 now across the UK. Yes, a university like this arriving maybe 10, 20 years ago would have been a godsend. It's arrived.
Yeah.
Sadly, a little bit too late for some of that nightlife. Yeah. Nightlife itself has changed. People have bemoaned the idea of pubs dying out, but sadly, social drinking now, community hub pubs have gone because people don't drink in their communities. They'll go to Spoons and whatever it is, or they'll drink at home.
From the minute alcohol got into the supermarkets, you saw it
at cheap prices. It is,
and after COVID, because people I can
got
drink
used
at
to
home.
it. Yeah,
the smoking
round to the back garden.
The smoking ban, lots of things added to all of that, which then it's a cumulative effect. And also, you know what? I had this little argument with somebody on, somebody on in the paper the other day was like, "Oh, kids these days, I've moved away from alcohol. They're all down the gym." I'm like, well, I don't think all are down the gym.
It's not a
Some
bad
of them.
thing either,
It's not
is it?
that's not a bad thing. No. But then I said to him, I run regularly around Peterborough and so on, and I said most places I go to, I see going past kids, and I know they're there because I can smell them because they're all smoking cannabis, and it's just it's something I don't like the smell of. So maybe I'm a little more tuned to it. And I was like, oh God.
I remember going out the week after the smoking ban kicked in and realising how bad clubs smell.
Yeah, right.
And after that, I was like, I'm never coming back in here again. People sweat, all sorts of other, scents. Like the smoke was masking it for years.
Yeah,
I used to
right.
have a good time in the club before they used to smoking ban came in. I can't stand this place.
Yeah.
It's
We were handing out
disgusting.
free cans of Lynx at the door.
That was a good tactic. That would have been
It's
a
a
good
bit
one.
of a strange, the sort of juxtaposition, the contradiction between the fact that, like you say, people complaining about there not being a live scene somewhere really that the youngsters can go and play, but in the same sense, the fact that your club had to close because of lack of support, and you see a lot of these live music venues closing because of lack of support.
What
So
do
people
you
are complaining
mean by
about
a lack of support though?
As
Because
in people aren't
obviously
turning
not
up for the
people
gigs.
coming in.
People are going to spend £100 to go and see, Taylor Swift, etc.,
They'll go
etc.
to
They're paying these
London,
big
they'll go to
money
a big
things,
event,
yeah,
they'll save the
rather
money
than
they took rather than
supporting
day-to-day
local
going out.
talent.
The problem-
in some
the pro-
ways.
It's not logical.
Yeah, but
though.
no. One of the problems is, and I'll lay this squarely at the door of not. Some of it's to do with apathy and people not coming out, but a lot of it was also to do with local councils.
Yes.
So, I mean, our venue, I had to sell it and close. The simple reason was we were only really opening on a Friday, Saturday night. We were two-night venue, and that's it. But we had to pay our rates for 7 nights a week. We had to pay all those other standing costs. We were rated as a shop and not, so Peterborough City Council had their pound of flesh in more ways than one, which forced us to close because we were paying these astronomical bills. Had they actually done it along the lines of, we'll just take what you guys are doing, we'd probably still be there today. But it got to the point where the cost of running the place was outstripping the number of people we were getting in and being successful. And that's what's happening to a lot of pubs, a lot of places. And sadly, that's what it is. And then combine that with, say, the apathy and the change of now direction that people want to drink at home and so on. It becomes difficult to sustain that. Who's brave enough? People keep saying me, "Oh, please open the pub."
Modern technology.
Charters was recently. It was the first time I've gone out in a while since I've been
Charters
back in
is good,
Peterborough.
it's
Actually,
banging.
Charter was good, and I was pleasantly surprised. They were playing some ska music.
Yeah, we played
That
live
took
there
me
a few
back
times,
bit.
and it's busy.
Yeah.
It is busy because it's sort of multifunctional, isn't it?
It's almost
that
like
beer
festival
garden,
slash
the beer garden's
beer,
amazing.
and then you've got food.
You've got food. You've got
But
the
in a way-
Provo downstairs, real ale.
But in a
you've
way,
got
they're
outdoors.
doing a little bit like what we did at the parks. I know my bro Chris Lovell there, Club with No Name, is back there on the scene and doing his stuff, which
Good
is
man.
lovely because Chris is
Yeah,
doing
he
stuff at
supported us.
Charters.
He's brilliant.
So again, there have been some amazing people. Mark Ringer, people like Chris have brought music into Peterborough and so on. The lack of venues has always been a difficult
at
one.
their own risk, and you've seen sometimes the pain they've gone through. And
They're losing money. It's horrible.
that's upset me.
You pay these bands and whatever, and I remember, Chris bought Keane to Peterborough, Brighton band, just before they broke. It was a horrible Saturday night. It was raining it down. 6 people there to watch them.
Yeah.
And those 6 people, 7 including me, loved them. They were brilliant. They wanted big things and so on. But, will they ever come to Peterborough again? I doubt it.
No.
But this music is amazing, but what about other creativity that we could bring into the city, like more poetry group nights? Or there's an amazing podcast called The Moth Hour. I don't know if you guys have ever
I
heard
feel
it.
like,
Who's
one
running that?
thing.
Storytelling. So people get 15 minutes each on stage it's like they call it have a good story worthy week, and it is, the people, just ordinary people like us, that tell stories that will make you laugh or make you cry, and you can go on stage and you can go and have coffee and watch them, and so there's lots of other ways
Julie,
of
where
creating.
does this happen? Is this a podcast?
It's not, this is a
This
podcast,
virtual thing?
but I
Okay.
wonder if we should, is there somewhere in the city we can do more things
But
like
I
that?
think wasn't that something they did at things like the Lightbox and stuff? They started trying different things,
could
and
be.
I don't think it's succeeded.
If you look behind you
It's
at those
just-
photographs, a lot of these things have to be. We can't rely on other people. They have to be spearheaded by the artists. Often in life,
right.
whether it be political movements or any of the art moves, they're pushed forward by the artists, and then the mainstream's dragged behind it. Now, I'm saying look behind because one of the reasons when I look at the faces behind, I know half these people. Okay, you can see Charlie the poet, and people like her and Keeley who have spearheaded poetry nights. You can see Tom Fox there, with Lamp House Theatre, him and Becky putting on lots of energy and lots of time into putting theatre productions. You can see Amanda Rigby, you can see Lee Mason, you can see all these people who go out doing, doing graffiti art, doing street art. I won't start carry on, but even just when I look at that, I can see the wealth of talent we were talking about earlier, and all of those people that I know have spearheaded putting on their own nights, have put it on at their own time, their own expense. They don't make any money from it. There isn't, on the odd occasion you might make a few quid. If you related it to the hours you'd spent, the thing looks like a joke. But as in, I made 100 quid tonight. That was amazing.
I run one night ever in my life, like I put together an event, and I think I came out the other event. I'd made a profit, but I was like, I'm taking it and running because I'm not doing this again. Why would I ever do this again?
So do you think technology has changed it a bit? Because
accessibility,
people don't need to be live and go to live events, because everyone can record on their mobile and get it out there.
It's double-edged, isn't it?
I think there's not been the facilitation element. I think that's the part where everybody... Culture is pushing us towards, I want to be the star rather than a facilitator. And I think we don't have as many people to bridge that gap between saying, oh, you're really talented, but you don't leave your bedroom, actually. So you need someone to say, come on, let's get going. I'm going to take you down here. There's no artist development anymore. So it does end up, Moony, as you said, the artists do end up spearheading it. But I think conversations and actually saying, oh, actually, I do remember that. And I'm not just gonna let that pass me by and die out without trying to push for more. Even like the Afro-Caribbean community in Peterborough, like really wanting to say, actually, we used to have a festival, we used to have a carnival in Peterborough years and years ago.
That's right.
Yeah.
Can we get that back? Can we find a way to get that back?
They're trying.
Can we find a way?
There's a group of people trying to. I went to a meeting where they're trying.
Well, I would love to help with that however I can.
That was a good old days of Marcus Garvey and Harambe House and all that sort of stuff. And you had sound systems again because people were living. I remember in those communities in Cromwell Road, for example, we had this stuff. I remember one summer during that carnival, the guys came to see my brother and I, and it was like we'd blown one of our speakers. And I mean, that's the lovely thing about sound systems. They only had one speaker. And so we'd blown one of our speakers. Could we borrow? And as soon as I said, we've blown a speaker, do we really want to lend them ours? Yeah. And it was like, no. But, they knew where we lived and stuff. And they were nice guys, and they were customers of our parents. And they were like, honestly, guys, trust us. And so I remember we lent them a couple of our speakers, and they put them up in Cromwell Road, so where the Iqbal Centre is now was Harambe House, Marcus Garvey. And they were, pumping this music out. And we went there on a Saturday night late, packed the kit up. So, yes, they were really pushing our speakers to the limit, which was kind of something. I remember this is a funny one because my brother had just gone to university, and so he always felt like he knew everything. So as we walked into this place, there was this dreadful smell, and it stunk. And I was like, whoa, that smells awful, bro. He goes, like, that's a smell of ganja. And I'm like, God, that smells of shit. And the closer we got to this smell, I was like, this is now killing me. This is awful. But how do people like this stuff? He goes, no, it is, man. They're getting high and stuff and whatever. And then I actually looked around, and where the DJ was playing his record, he'd put a light bulb on a plastic chair, which is now on fire. And that's what that smell was. It wasn't ganja, it was a burning chair.
Yeah, there's a big difference
there
between...
is. So I said to him, you sure? He goes, yeah, it is. And I goes, what about that? and this guy apparently put the chair up. But, those communities all lived together. The carnival was actually from that area, going up Glaston Street, whatever it was. As our communities have dissipated, we moved away. We've lost that community cohesion, which I think has led to that. Plus, it came with a lot of baggage, all of those things. It came with the fact that there was risk, again, of violence and issues like that. So people have to be mindful of those sort of things as well. But to your point earlier on about has technology affected it? Of course it has. You go to any gig these days. Back in the day, I went to so many gigs, everything from Led Zeppelin and Nebworth through to watching bands just up the road at the arena like The Clash and so on. And we were all focused on the band and trying to avoid people spitting on you. But now you go to a gig and everybody's got their bloody phone out.
Yeah, right.
They're not watching the gig. They're not listening to it. They're recording it. Or look, I've got the band. Oh, come on, guys, drop those wretched things and watch the artist. I mean, I love those guys that come out. I went to see and they just said, listen, guys, we see anybody with a phone out, we can be really disappointed. And they just give us a little warning. And everybody's like, But I think as one gig when nobody got their phones out, they just literally.
You say about the sorry, and I'll
Go for it.
The technology community thing. Because one of the differences, the changes it had made, is that we are now entertained, right? So that need for my neighbour has reduced. You know, like if you take about 50 years, people standing on their doorsteps chatting to neighbour over the fence, this, that, that. Now I can go home, I can watch the latest movie. I can. It's warm. I've got everything I want. Food, drink, everything. I don't have to stand and have a barbecue. Yeah, but it's
aunties,
I think
flower beds.
I think you can live in a street now and not say more than a sentence to people you've lived next to for a decade now. Yeah. Which, if you wrap that back, when you need each other, necessity is the mother of invention. And I remember like when we used to go on holiday to Pakistan, my father's side were from quite a well-to-do area. So they lived in a big house, and we never really saw anybody because they've got gates and all that kind of stuff. But my mother's side was from a sort of ghetto. So we'd go there and there's kids on the streets and there's litter everywhere. And one of my favourite things about it was the way that we managed the bins was they really piled all the litter in a pile at the end of the street. And once a week you put some petrol on you. And I'm an English kid and I'm saying, can I go and burn the... And they're like, yeah. And I'm just like setting fire to these massive things. But every day there was kids in and out. Yeah. And the reason was... because they needed each other and because they didn't have stuff. So one person had a TV and two people in the street had something, so you just naturally would borrow off each other. Now we've got everything and we're entertained. I'm entertained on the bus. I don't even need to look at anybody.
That's the opposite thing. Social media separates you from one another. We can all get on a Zoom together, but that's not the same as being in the room, having a real conversation, and that's the problem.
So we're coming close to the end of this podcast, but I have one last question I'd like to ask each one of you. If you could see anyone in concert that you haven't seen, dead, who's either living or not living, who would that be? One musician.
Hard. That's a difficult one.
Right, it is, right? So you've got a few seconds to think about who. I'll start. Bob Marley.
Okay, I'll go off the back of that then.
Okay, go for it.
Peter Tosh.
Okay.
If I could see Peter Tosh perform live, yeah, I think that would be a bucket list for me.
Del?
Oh, blimey. Way too many.
Think about it.
Way too many. Come on.
Or do you need time to think about it?
Yeah, I mean...
Okay.
So I'm going to start cheating and naming more than one.
Okay, tell me another.
Or DMX as well. Recently passed, a couple of years ago, he's like my favourite, as it were.
Elvis
artist.
Presley? Love to see Elvis Presley.
A band that's alive though, the Idols. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Idols from Bristol. They're phenomenal. I've seen them perform live before, and I would see them again.
I was a massive Beatles fan as a kid and teenager.
Have you seen them live?
And I'm talking like I would like to see the whole original lineup, mid to late 60s rather than early 60s. I would love to Rubber Soul, Revolve around that
far
era.
Off. I mean, I was tossing up between kind of these guys.
The Ramones.
So I love the Ramones. The Pistols. Never got to see Sex Pistols live, and I would have. And I think, like, I'm so envious of the people that saw them at the Free Trade Hall in Manchester because it changed so many lives. I don't know if you've seen that film, 24-Hour Party People, where they were literally everybody from Manchester was watching the Sex Pistols, and it formed so many bands came from that gig. But like you, the Beatles, I think, because they influenced so much. And, when I watched the Let It Be, the documentary, which is amazing, and that last performance on the rooftop there, then yes, I would like to probably have seen them. I've seen McCartney, but I've never got to see the Beatles live, I think.
Good choice. And thank you so much for joining us today to talk about creativity. It was
nice to meet you guys as well.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys properly.
Yeah, let's keep in touch.
And good night.
Cheers.
Bye.
That wraps up today's episode, but stay tuned because we've got some amazing guests coming your way. Here's a little preview of what you can expect in our next episode.
I watched this video recently where someone was asking the question of why are there so many DJs all of a sudden everywhere? And there's kind of been like a thing of like, everyone's just a DJ now.
This makes sense.
And it's so fine. Like, we love DJs, but at the same time, it's like people... The video was talking about how people no longer just participate in music in the sense of listening to it and enjoying it and having a nice time out on a night out maybe. They're now feeling like they have to be participating and contributing to it.
Right.
And that's fine because obviously more contribution is always a good thing. But we're no longer seeing creativity as something that we can just enjoy, but it's something that we have to be actively be seen to be doing.
Remember, you can download all episodes from season 1 right now from wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to watch instead, check out the full-length episodes on the Peterborough Presents YouTube channel. We'd love a season 2, so however you tune in, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and of course share it with all your friends and family. Every bit of engagement helps massively. I'm Julie Fernandez, and I'll see you in the next episode.